we're going to get started and hopefully give you guys a jump start to how to do coaching, particularly around the topic of social and emotional learning. So today, I'm really excited. We have two panelists or two presenters joining us. The first is Rachel Fergine, who is an education consultant here at DPI, who is our all things expert on coaching. And then we will also be able to hear from Julie Wasaki from Adams Friendship, who's been one of the SEL coaches in the district. And Adams Friendship has got a great story. They've been doing SEL for a number of years, and the coaching has been a really strong component of that. And so this is your opportunity to hear how one district does this. There's also going to be time for questions. Because this is a Zoom webinar, however, we're going to ask that you put any questions that you have in the chat box. Myself, Beth Herman, and I didn't even introduce myself, and Greg Curtis, our school counselor, education consultant, will be monitoring the box. If it's a question that we can interject in certain parts of the presentation, we will do so. We'll also take some time at the end for questions. So at this point, everybody is muted, and I am going to mute myself, and I'm going to turn this over to Rachel to begin the presentation.
Thanks, Beth. And thanks for the intro. My name is Rachel Fergine, as Beth mentioned, and I am an education consultant on the special education team here at DPI, and have over the past several years worked very closely with creating coaching supports with our statewide coaching coordinator, Joseph Conkey, who you may or may not have heard of, but he and I worked very closely in this work to provide supports and resources. Our hope is that those supports and resources are aligned and consistent across the agency, and then available for coaches to access across our state. So I'm going to share my screen because I have a few slides that will help guide our conversation today. Beth asked me to do a brief overview of kind of what is available now, and I will do a little preview of what's coming as well. But I want to kind of start with a little bit of background of kind of why this work is so important and why we're focusing on it here at the state level. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the work of Joyce and Showers from 2002, who found that even with practice and feedback when learning new skills, only 5% of educators actually continue to use those new skills when they return to their classrooms. Yet when embedded coaching is provided, that implementation with fidelity is improved to up to 90%. So really there's a lot of research that supports the importance of coaching in the field. Since that initial research, we've looked at the work of Elena Aguilar, Jim Knight, the National Implementation Research Network, and others, and they have found that those implications hold true. So coaching really accelerates the implementation of an innovative practice, but most importantly, coaching promotes and increases the fidelity of the implementation. And it's the fidelity of the practice that leads to the intended outcomes for students. But we realized that the definitions across the state weren't the same. So we asked ourselves, what defines quality coaching and who defines quality coaching? Because if coaching means different things to different people in different settings, we don't have the fidelity to coaching. And if we don't have fidelity to coaching, we cannot get to the promise of the research. So to begin, we wanted to ensure that we were reaching folks across the state in an easy to understand and consistent way. So we created a simple video explaining in plain language what coaching looks like and what it sounds like. So I'm going to play this video. It's about 5 minutes. And actually, I want to make sure before I play the video, I apologize for a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and just make sure that my audio is optimized. Okay, it is. So it's about a 5-minute video, and this is the state's definition of kind of a simple way to describe coaching. And I encourage, we'll have the links for you later on. I encourage you to save or archive this video if you ever need to talk about coaching kind of in a general overall sense. So here we go.
Last summer, Chu, who's a teacher, went to a training where he learned about some research-based practices that he's excited to use to help his students learn. But now he's back to his full daily routine, there's not too much support for implementing the new practices, so it's pretty much impossible to do so in a meaningful way, considering all the other demands on CHU's time. That's no surprise. Research has found only about 5% of educators are able to implement new ideas they learned at a training after they go back to their jobs on their own, even when the training was high quality. So this is where Aaliyah comes in. She's a coach. When a true coach enters the picture, suddenly instead of only 5%, 85 to 95% of teachers are able to successfully implement a new practice. These findings have been replicated in multiple studies. So, what do we mean by coaching in this context? It's intentional, job-embedded professional learning, designed to help teachers and staff use an innovation or practice as intended. It takes place after the training and happens while the participants are engaged in their work. CHU feels it helps to have a peer by your side, someone who's skilled in reflective conversations, someone with an open, self-reflective, and culturally responsive mindset, someone who knows you'll run into internal and external barriers to reaching the goals you've set, and knows how to help you make a plan to get past them, someone with dedicated time and skills to help you step back and analyze what the data says about whether your efforts are making the impact you want. Aaliyah helps CHU come to answers on his own, keeping everything confidential along the way. So CHU gets to practice the new skills he learned in his training in an environment that's safe and judgment-free. You're probably familiar with this kind of one-on-one instructional coaching. But Aaliyah has a varied job in her district. She has also coached the district leadership team as they've looked at what data shows about reducing achievement gaps. She coaches principals too. Once she even got pulled in to help a co-teaching pair with difficult conversations so they could work together more productively. Not every coach has the skills to coach in all these situations, but there are some commonalities to what all these kinds of coaching look like when coaching is working well. One of the reasons Aaliyah is able to support CHU is that her administrators understand and have made crystal clear what effective coaching is. Aaliyah's job description is well thought out, and there's been common training in the district on what makes a coach a coach. Now, Aaliyah has visited neighboring districts where staff haven't had time to comb through the research and develop their own clear definition of coaching. As a result, these coaches aren't really doing the same practice that was proven in the research. And so despite the district's investments of time and money, they're not getting most of the benefits of coaching. This is why we put in the time to make a definition that any coach or school can use. We tapped Wisconsin practitioners and experts as well as the leading research. Our 8-page document, the Coaching Competency Practice Profile, breaks down effective coaching into several core competencies. We spell out exactly what those competencies look like when their components are being practiced really well, versus when they're just emerging in a coach's practice, versus when they're not there at all. Actual coaches in Wisconsin schools helped us field test and revise this document to make sure it's workable and helpful. Whatever kind of coaching you're doing, if you model the components of these competencies as described, you are practicing coaching with fidelity to what was evaluated in the research, so the educators and students around you can enjoy the benefits. We're also providing other materials to help make the most of coaching, including some focused on the roles administrators can play. Now, not only can Aaliyah make sure she's partnering with CHU to educate his students to best effect, but all of us can be confident that when we do manage to invest in this new practice called coaching, we know how to take the time to do it right. Look for our materials at dpi.wi.gov/coaching.
So as the video described, the agency developed a common definition in coaching, which is titled the Coaching Competency Practice Profile. And that's really our beginning foundational document to assist practitioners in the field to understand what it looks like and what it feels like to be a coach. But I do like to take a little bit of time to talk about what exactly is a practice profile, because oftentimes it's kind of a new document for people who haven't had experience with them. A practice profile is similar to a rubric, which many of you have, I'm sure, have experience with working with rubrics that kind of describe a gradients of skills, for example. But a practice profile is different in that it allows a practice in the field to be observable, teachable, learnable, and doable. And our coaching competency practice profile, as I said before, is the foundational document. There are some differences, however, and this slide is sort of our anatomy of the practice profile. So we have included 6 core competencies that describe coaches in Wisconsin, and each competency is organized in this way. So you'll have the core competency listed right on the top. You can see that kind of blue banner. We included a section that we titled Contributions to Systems Transformation. And in this section is really the why of each competency. Why is that competency important enough to include within the document? And it talks about what pieces help contribute to systemic change and how it moves the work forward. Along the left-hand column, in many of our competencies, we have different components that live under that one core competency. And so you'll see kind of the what, and that is that first left-hand column. And then we have 3 columns that really they include the observable language. So if someone is walking in and wants to know what it looks like to be a coach, these are the columns that they would read. So we have an expected use and practice, and this is really the kind of the gold standard of what a really skilled coach would be able to do, and that's that first describing the how column. The middle column is described as developmental use and practice, and this is what you might see in a developing coach or a coach who is developing their skills and knowledge and dispositions in the areas of each competency. And then finally, another piece that really sets apart a practice profile from a rubric is this final column, the unacceptable use and practice. And this is really not only the absence of, but can actually include behaviors that could be harmful in a coaching setting. So that's just a quick overview of the anatomy of a practice profile. And then on this slide, I have briefly listed each competency with their related components. This is sort of our at a glance. So you'll see we have 6 core competencies, and then there are several competencies that have more than one component related to that. So you'll see reflective practice has 3, and then change facilitation has 4 distinct pieces to it. And then I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but you can see how it's divided out and how it's organized. And I do believe that Beth has included a link to the entire the entire practice profile for your reference. So please feel free to take time to kind of read through each describing expected use and practice. It really will give you a good idea of what each of these things looks like and feels like in the field. I do want to briefly highlight a few of the other resources we're beginning to build off of that foundational document, our foundational definition of coaching. I will, at the end of my slides, have a link to our coaching page from our DPI coaching page. But on that page, we have a tool that I've really heard a lot of great feedback across the field around. We have a self-assessment. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like on the computer. But what it is, and I'm going to stay here for a second. What this self-assessment does is it takes each component of the competency practice profile and asks individual coaches to think about how you would self-assess. Where do you see yourself, your strengths, and your potential areas of growth as it relates to each competency in the practice profile? It's completely confidential. DPI does not keep any of that data, does not store any of that data, doesn't even know that you've really visited the website, in all honesty. But it allows each coach to really take some time to self-reflect and think about what might be useful in developing a professional learning plan for the year or developing some professional growth goals. So I invite each of you to take some time to get to know the practice profile, and then additionally to look at that self-assessment. The next slide is an example of what your self-assessment results might give you. So you'll see down each dot point is a specific core competency. So the individual who filled this out rated themselves on a 1 to 4 scale, 1 being kind of where they felt their skills were the lowest, and 4 meaning indicating where they felt they were the strongest in those competencies. And then the computer kind of generates some averages and provides some recommendations on where a coach might want to focus their professional learning, or where they might want to focus creating a professional growth goal for the year. So you can see here, this person scored themselves quite high in reflective practice and relationship development. But then you'll see the knowledge base development competency. The computer is suggesting that they might want to focus their professional growth focus in that area throughout the year. So with that being said, we are working hard here at the state to continue to develop resources that are directly connected to that coaching competency definition. And then similarly, we are hoping that we can provide resources that would directly relate to individuals' personal needs in where they might be. You know, if I'm going to toggle back to this self-assessment example, if they have their results and the results are telling them, hey, I need to learn more about competency X, for example, knowledge-based development, they can come to our website, and there will be resources that are tagged with this competency, so they can go in and do some reading that are directly related to that particular competency. So we're really excited about where the work is going. We have a lot of work left ahead of us, but you'll see here I have linked the website. I also have linked specifically the self-assessment. However, all of these things are right on the website, so they're really easy to find. My colleague Joseph Conkey is currently writing blogs, interviewing coaches across the state. He is sharing, we have 1 newsletter so far, and we have 1 scheduled to come out again in December. And with each of these learning opportunities, again, as I mentioned, they're tagged with specific core competencies from that practice profile to really kind of help nail down what learning might be useful for individual coaches. I'm going to just click on the web link just to show you what it looks like quickly. So you'll see here the video that we watched together is right here on the front page. And then if you scroll down, you can access the full coaching competency practice profile right from the web page. And then we are continuing to build out this What's Next for You section, which you can see. You can access the self-assessment here. There is a link to some blogs. I believe currently this book study is, I think participation is full, but always come back and look for more learning opportunities here as well. And then you'll see we have some, the Wisconsin Coaching Chronicles will be our quarterly newsletter that is kind of related to all sorts of different things here at the agency and across the state related to coaching and coaching done well. So I think, whoops, sorry about that. Go back to my slides. That is all I have. I'm going to stop sharing, but we'll make sure that if there are any links that people need, that we get them to you. Beth and Greg, that's all I have about
Rachel,
the resources.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
You mentioned the newsletter. Do people need to sign up to receive that newsletter? And how can they do that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Unfortunately, there are some things when you work for a big bureaucracy that take more time than you hope. So we were hoping that we would have a subscribe, unsubscribe button available in November. It's just taking a little longer than we thought. Yes, you will have to subscribe. My recommendation is come back to the website in a couple weeks. Keep checking back because we're hoping that that button will soon be active so that people can opt in to receive that newsletter.
Okay.
It's not ready yet.
Okay, and we can actually link all of that on the, I think we can put some links between the SEL page and coaching as well so that people can find it. And once it's ready to go, Rachel, we can send it out through the SEL email list as well.
Great.
We can make sure people get that. And if people didn't see, I will, on the webpage, the SEL webpage for training opportunities where these webinars are listed, once this recording is completed, it will go, a link will go on there, but we'll also include the PowerPoint, and there was a tool that Rachel wanted to share. We'll make sure that all of that is available through there as well. Do you have any questions for Rachel? Chat box is open. You're all just thinking about turkey, I know it. All right, so then let's move on to Julie. Julie, I'm unmuting you, and hopefully this will work. As I mentioned before, Julie is a teacher as well as an SEL coach in Adams Friendship. And just to set the stage a little bit here, Adams Friendship does a program, an SEL program called Positive Action, which has a coaching component built into it. And they've done some really great things with this program. So Julie, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you could just share with us a little bit about what your role as a coach is like, maybe what the thinking at Adams Friendship was around setting up this coaching model, and any other things that you think might be relevant to people who are just kind of starting this process. Okay. Julie may not be hearing me, so I'm sending a chat. Julie, can you hear me? Yeah, me too. So Julie, I unmuted you from my end. I'm not sure if you are unmuted from yours or if there's a problem with the mic. Because from here, it looks like you're unmuted. Okay, so Julie, it looks like you should be able to go ahead and talk. So we seem to be having some difficulties with the audio. So what I think we might do is just have Julie record something where she's just talking to us at another point and add it to this. But why don't we do this? Julie, you can see. Okay, she's got a screen share. So why don't we do this for now? This is your opportunity. Julie can see the chat box, as can we. So we're just going to go nonverbal here. And if you have some questions, this is your opportunity to ask anything you ever wanted to ask an SEL coach. Let's type the questions in the chat box and just do that for now. And then what we can do is we can get Julie's story and share that. We'll just edit it in somehow later. So go ahead and ask questions in the chat box. Julie, don't worry about any verbal stuff at this point. We'll work this through later. Not a big deal. Especially since you're doing this on your time off. So Rachel has a question. What is the intended outcome of an SEL coach? So are you able to put in the chat box how you would answer that, Julie? What do you hope as a coach is the outcome? No. All right, I think I got kicked off. So we seem to be having some technical problems. A few folks are getting kicked off. So I think what we will do is, rather than prolong this for everybody, we'll work on a fix here and get the information from Julie, because I'd really like you to be able to share how that works. Positive action is actually for elementary level. They are working on a secondary one at this point, and they do not have a high school level one at this time. And Megan, if you go to the SEL website we have, there is an alignment tool to positive action and some links to find out more information about it. Rachel has one more thing to add as well.
I failed to mention, related to the practice profile, we really wrote that so that it is generalized enough that any type of coach can see themselves in that practice profile. So if you're an instructional coach working one-on-one with an educator in a classroom, if you're an SEL coach working with a team, or if you're a coach that's working at a systems level, at the district level, working with leadership teams, the definitions and the descriptions within that practice profile are for you, I guess. And so I just wanted to point that out, because I failed to mention that during my brief description. So that's all.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for rolling with this kind of crazy little problem we're having here. Any other questions that you have about SEL and coaching? We'll have a little chat with Julie later and we'll add it, but for now. Well, I guess until we get this figured out, we're just going to sign off here, because I don't want to keep people on if our technology is really not working so well. So we will take questions. If you have some questions that you think of and you'd like to email us, please feel free to do that. And we will, there's a question. What qualifications are districts looking for in an SEL coach? So I'm just going to start this response, but other folks in this room may have something to add here. I will say that this SEL coaching piece is fairly new, so I'm not sure that districts would necessarily have a qualification for that. I will say that some of the programs, like Positive Action, for example, probably do have some, such as that you're familiar with the program that people are implementing and that kind of thing. But I think that districts might have something relative to coaching in general, right? That you want to.
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot in general about coaching, because we're really just now defining what it looks like and feels like to be a coach. So oftentimes what I say to coaches is take the practice profile to your administrators, show them the definitions, and point out things that feel like they fit really well with what you're doing as an SEL
professional and expert in your district, if you're shifting into that more coaching role, really the knowledge, skills, and dispositions of coaches, no matter the type of coach, really are the same. And then the SEL part, if you're focusing on that social emotional learning with your educators, that's where you would kind of dial in to some of that expertise stuff. So I would encourage you to take the document straight to the folks who are creating job descriptions and use it to help guide that discussion.
I think also what we do know from different districts that are using a coaching model and they're using different types around SEL, that one of the decisions to be made, and I think this is really a local decision, is whether the coach should be a teacher or whether the coach could be a pupil services person. In Adams Friendship, I believe all the coaches are teachers, but we do have other districts in which they are counselors and social workers who are familiar with the content of SEL. And that's a decision to be made locally to see which people would probably have the skills, not only to be a coach, but also the necessary credibility with staff to do the coaching as well. And at this point, we're still pretty new at looking at this SEL coaching model. And so any experiences that any of you have, we would love to hear them. So if you're looking for examples of districts, Adams Friendship and Mequon Thiensville, both are doing coaching in different ways. And there are case studies on the SEL website of those two districts. And it talks about their coaching model as well as how they're doing SEL across the board. It was a long-winded response to your question, Rachel. Julie, are you there?
I'm trying.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Yay, I'm on my third device.
So
I don't know what happened.
Well, we're glad that you're here. And we are just sort of punting until you came back. So are you able to share a little bit about how Adams Friendship is using coaching for SEL and how you made some decisions? One of the questions was, what are the qualifications? What are districts looking for? And you guys chose to go with teachers. So could you tell us about your experiences there?
Sure, absolutely. I've been a positive action coach in the district for the last 3 years. We started positive action with a pilot with our kindergarten and first grade. And then when we decided to go to it full district, they automatically wanted to implement some coaches right off the bat because they felt we needed people who were available to help or answer questions or just were there to troubleshoot with you if you needed something. Originally, when we started out with coaches, we chose just one member from each building. We asked people that would be interested. I think our administrators were looking into people who were very much interested in or who implemented a lot of the social and emotional learning in their classroom the way it is. Our elementary school did some morning meetings. Our middle school does some restorative practices with restorative circles. People who were big into that were people who were chosen as coaches because we were the people who thrive really on building those positive relationships with our kids. We started with one coach in each building, and then that kind of dwindled a little bit. Some people enjoyed it and continued with it. Some people didn't. Myself and another coach were asked to be the lead for the district because we were implementing it in our classroom faithfully, and we were able to reach out to others and offer help or suggestions if they needed them. We've been available to other teachers who want to come and observe in our classroom and see us doing some positive action lessons, as well as restorative circles or morning meetings. I recently moved from the elementary school to the middle school this year. I spent 22 years in our elementary school, and this year I moved to the middle school where we do restorative circles, which to me is a lot like morning meeting, but it's building those relationships with your kids. And so in my homeroom time, after I do my restorative circle, I do a positive action lesson with my kids. And for those of you who might not be familiar with positive action is a research-based curriculum that builds self-esteem in our students. We have it in our district from 4K up through 8th grade. In elementary school, the kids get a lesson 3 times a week. It takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes. In the middle school, they get a lesson 2 times a week for 15 to 20 minutes. And it is truly building their self-esteem. It works on teaching them how to look at themselves positively, how to look in the mirror and say positive things to themselves, good hygiene, giving compliments to one another, eating healthy, getting good sleep. It looks at all those things on how to take care of you. And so we do those positive action lessons in every classroom, elementary through middle school. Our high school implements it a little bit with their guidance program. We also do have guidance curriculum that plays into this. Our guidance counselors, especially at the elementary level, do lessons with the kids once a week for, I believe it's 6 weeks, to cover the positive action piece of the guidance curriculum. We do have some things that get sent home with the kids, like parents can help out. Parents are very well aware of us doing this in the classrooms. And so sometimes things get sent home for the kids to practice at home. Parents have given us very positive feedback on liking positive action. Originally, when we implemented it, people were upset because it was just one more thing we had to try to fit into our day that didn't extend. I'm sure you all know how that is. But once we found out the reasoning behind this and the fact that we are trying to build this positive self-esteem in our kids, we very much needed this in our district. I've done some of these before where I've had people ask me questions like, is it only for the poor districts or the kids who don't have all the things they need in life? And it's not. It's really life skills for every kid, no matter what their income at home is or what they have and don't have. So it's something necessary for all kids, I feel, and any district can be a part of positive action if they're willing to put out the money to buy the curriculum. It comes with teacher books as well as kits for activities and things to do with the kids. There are reproducibles, there's journals and workbooks for the older kids, there's worksheets for the younger kids. But it's something that our district had a grant for and we were able to implement. And it's been a hard buy-in for some teachers because they don't want to use any more of their time. But for those of us who are out there coaching and encouraging, we really try to get them to understand the positive piece of this and why it's important for our kids to have this and to see this and to use this and to become familiar with this. Those that start at the 4-year-old kindergarten level are at such an advantage because once they get to middle school, it's amazing the common vocabulary we're all using with them, the things they say and do, the things that they know. So it's really something that expands with the kids through the years. But as far as coaching goes, again, it was administrative selected at the beginning. And then those of us who wanted to continue, we were asked if we would like to continue, and we do. We go around and we do fidelity checks with our colleagues. We go into the room and observe them. They are welcome at any time to come into our rooms and observe us. We do the buddy system with positive action at the middle school this year. Every classroom has a buddy class, and we do one lesson a week with our buddy classroom. So we combine the 2 classrooms together just to kind of make sure everybody's doing it to fidelity, as well as different takes from different people. You're expanding the amount of kids participating as well as the staff members that are helping out with that. We also have a strong SEL going in our language arts department this year. We sat down as a language arts department over the summer and we identified several books that would be important for our kids to hear, whether it be a read aloud or read in the classroom during lit class. And we identified what would be good at 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade level. Of course, 6th grade being the less difficult of topics, more like bullying or divorce, Then we get to 8th grade and we deal with, suicide and teen pregnancy and things like that unfortunately kids are exposed to and need to know about. So we sat down and identified books, and we identified how we were going to teach that this year in terms of when and what lessons we would combine them with. And so now we're kind of going across positive action and identifying what lessons should be taught at what time based on what subject we're covering in our literature classes. They're also doing writing about some of the things that they're reading about as well. So we kind of have a lot of different things going on, and I know I'm speaking from my own experience, so hopefully I'm sharing with you what it looks like, but certainly if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer what you're interested in knowing about, because I've been doing it for a while and it's old hat to me, so I want to know what I can do to help you.
So Julie, we did get a question.
Yes.
And the question was, is the coaching just around the positive action lessons? You might have started to answer this actually. Or is there also coaching around how you're integrating SEL and the competencies into content? We started talking about that a little bit. But do you coach across the board SEL or just the positive action?
Right now I'm doing just positive action, although SEL is being implemented this year for the first time. So we are getting some questions about SEL things, and some people, especially our new teachers, who are asking a lot about SEL and how to do it and what to do with it. So we do, I am more than happy to meet with and talk with them too, but I am primarily a positive action coach at this time. We did just have these last 3 days, restorative practices came in and did a train the trainer workshop for teachers in our building. So those people will also be coaches now with the restorative practice piece of it. Unfortunately, I wanted to do that so badly, but I couldn't because I've only been doing restorative for this year because I was doing the morning meeting piece of it in elementary school. So we are primarily positive action coaches, myself and a couple others. But I am also the lit teacher, and the lit department is heading up the SEL piece of it. So I know that as we expand on that, this year it's very new to us. So we are identifying how we're going to be doing it in our district, but I know from there we will expand out to be coaching in that as well.
Great. Thank you. Other questions? Thanks for the question, Megan. Anything you ever wanted to know about coaching SEL? Just to let you guys know, Greg did link to the case studies so that you can see the whole, the way that the whole district of Adams Friendship has been approaching SEL, and it talks about the coaching pieces in there. If you have some questions for Julie, please send them to us, and we can certainly make sure, it might be, Julie, that people would want to have a conversation with you a little bit more one-on-one. Are you open to that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So keep in mind, if there's more things that you want to know about this, or you want to go back and talk to people, or you wake up in the middle of the night now with a question about this, or you want to talk to Julie, let me know, and I will make sure that you guys get connected. And if you have any other questions, please send them to us and we can pass them on as well. But we thank you all for being here, and thank you so much, Julie, for being so diligent and so persistent.
No problem.
SEL skills, yes, to get on this webinar with us and be able to share the story. So
I apologize for the confusion too.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. You're phoning in from home, and you're on break, and all of it is good. Okay, everybody.
I'm just getting over the flu, so I'm trying to get back to the real world.
Oh, I hope you feel better. It's really awful being sick on the holidays.
Right.
So everybody have a great Thanksgiving break. Practice some good self-care while you're all out there. And we will see you next month for the next version of our SEL, or no, January. Actually, we skipped December because everybody's so busy. The next SEL webinar will be in January. This one is being recorded once we have it officially ready to go, which means that it's closed captioned. We will post that as well as the PowerPoint and the tools that we have from Rachel. And feel free to email us with any questions. If I can't answer it or Greg can't answer it, we will certainly get it to people who can. So thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.